Hey, how you doing, guys? Good evening. Thank you so much for coming to this final presentation. So this evening we're going to be talking about organic and natural products. So that's food and other consumer products. So we're going to be looking at some key terms. Organic, just to clarify, that means USDA organic. And then the term natural also refers to the quality of food or the ingredients. And then the term GMO, that's short for genetically modified organism. So for example, an apple that's been modified to be sweeter or larger or last longer on the shelf, that would be a GMO. So why are we here? Why do we want to look at this? So we want to learn a little bit more about this seemingly modern, organic, natural craze in foods and other products that seems to be fairly new to our generation. So we want to just learn a little bit more about that today. Is it legitimate? What are the specifics? So that's what we're going to look at. So first we're going to cover, when did all of this start? What's the history behind all of this? We're also going to look at what makes it organic, what distinguishes organic things from natural things, and so on and so forth. Then we're also going to talk about the real impact of these products and the detriments of using the alternatives. So first, let's take a look at the history and when this all started. So the word organic and organic food is kind of new to the last few decades, it seems like to us. However, the reason for this is that organic food wasn't really determined as a segment of groceries. It was really just all that existed up until about 100 years ago. A little bit less than 100 years ago, actually. So it was actually 1939, a guy named Paul Muller developed a chemical called DDT. So that was a new class of insecticides. Apparently it used chlorinated hydrocarbons to counter the pest problem. So that's a fancy way of saying they've got this new fancy synthetic chemical that handles pests. Now this was actually discovered in World War II in the gas chambers. So the same things that they were using to gas people, they actually found that in smaller doses that would actually kill insects. So that's the same thing that they're using to kill people. It's what they're using to kill insects. So that's a spin-off of that was this actual insecticide that came about. So what's interesting, you've also got in England around the 1940s, the organic farming craze starts to gain a little bit more traction. And then you jump back over to the United States in the 1960s and 70s, you have this natural green movement that starts to become more and more popular. So that interest in health and nutrition focuses on conservation and environmental issues. All of those things together kind of created this demand for an organic market and encouraged farmers to adopt these organic methods. So what's interesting also is, although there was a general agreement on philosophical approaches, there wasn't really a certification or a standard, a universal standard that everyone could agree on. So, for example, an apple farmer in New York would have very different challenges than an apple farmer in California, so they would have very, very different standards on what organic actually meant. So then, that leads us into the 1990s, and you actually get the National Organic Food Production Act of 1990. So this, what it did was it allowed the USDA to implement this program called the National Organic Program. You can see the USDA organic symbol is featured right there at the bottom of this photo. So this kind of universalized the standard of what organic means. And so now we're going to go ahead and jump into what does organic actually mean. So in these different foods, you're going to see several different words. In health food stores, you'll see lots of different words on different products, and they are different. It's not just all the same thing. So first of all, you might see the term natural. All natural, 100% natural. It comes in a variety of forms. The symbol over to the left isn't the universal symbol. That's just something I found to kind of show you what you might find commonly on a food or packaging. The natural is really just kind of a loose term for we tried a little bit. There's not really a legal standard that the USDA has for natural. I believe that it can't contain extremely harmful chemicals like food dye made from tar, which actually most food dyes in conventional foods are derived from tar. But so natural is a very loose, kind of undefined standard of food. So then you get to organic, USDA organic. is not exactly as strict as people think. It actually it can't contain any insecticides or pesticides made with any synthetic chemicals. Obviously, you can't have any GMOs be qualified as organic. And it has to have, if it's a food that's made with multiple ingredients, it's got to be made with at least 95% organic ingredients. So its overall compound has to be 95% organic or more. So it's not 100%. It can have a little bit of non-organic content in order for it to be USDA organic. So the symbol over to the left is the standard USDA organic logo. However, not all foods actually use this, but in order for the food to actually say organic on the box or on the package, for example, if they're selling you organic crackers, then it has to be at least 95% organic content in order to even use the word. So the USDA is at least fairly strict in that regard. You'll also see 100% organic seals. So this is kind of the top tier of organic food and produce. So 100% organic content is exactly how it sounds. It doesn't have that 95.5 grace period that regular organic produce does. It's got to be 100% organic. So not even a hint of non-organic ingredient or product can be in there. So even the procedure that is behind the production of these products has to be all natural and 100% free of any GMOs or insecticides or synthetic chemicals. So 100% organic is very, very strict. It's not, in my opinion, necessary to hunt down 100% organic products because that's actually kind of impossible. So you're realistically not going to find 100% organic products everywhere you go. You might find one or two things in your grocery store that you can actually get 100% organic. That's about it. There are pretty much all things are going to be USDA organic available. You're not going to have much trouble finding anything unless you're looking for things like Sloppy Joes. But I think even that might now be available in an organic form, depending on where you go. So let's go ahead and talk about the real impact of this. So, according to a Princeton University study, there are lots of carcinogens in produce that are made with conventional methods. So, herbicides and fungicides and insecticides, according to the EPA, have up to 90% of fungicides have carcinogens, 60% of herbicides have carcinogens, and roughly 30% of insecticides used on produce have carcinogens. Then you've also got carcinogens in meat, so we've got cancer-causing agents in almost all of the meat that's sold in the United States that isn't certified organic. So this happens when they treat cows with a hormone called RBGH or RBGT. You'll see on the labels they often will write, technically there has been no link found between cows treated with RBGH or RBGT and cancer, something to that effect. Technically, there is no actual concrete evidence that says, okay, we know this 100% causes this. However, there have been a lot of studies that have concluded that it's very, very plausible to think that there's a link between these hormones and cancer in humans. So we've done lots of studies with very large sample sizes that have overwhelming evidence to support the claim that these chemicals are causing cancer in humans. Then you've also got carcinogens in other consumer products as well. So these consumer products can be anything from shampoos or deodorants or toothpastes, even fragrances. Lots of designer fragrances, colognes and perfumes have been linked recently to breast cancer. And in fact, you've got a lot of links between breast cancer and deodorants and antiperspirants, as it turns out. There is an aluminum compound that they use that temporarily clogs the pores, and that's what causes the perspiration to stop. And these aluminum compounds have been linked very heavily to breast cancer in women. Then you've also got in shampoos and soaps a chemically modified form of coconut oil. It's actually called Cocamide DEA, And so that's used as a foaming agent or a thickener in soaps and shampoos and conditioners and similar products like that. And that product has also been very heavily linked to increased cancer in humans. So it's very debated, the cancer link between these non-organic foods. I'm not saying that we can really judge one way or another 100% what these links may or may not indicate. However, I do know the people who sell the products with the hormone-treated cows, with the insecticides on the produce, with the GMOs, they have a lot of money and a lot to lose. And so these studies have been refuted by very, very powerful companies. So it's not ludicrous to think that, there may be a little bit more concrete evidence than they're letting on. However, that's the state that we're in now. So we can't just overwhelmingly wholesale say, this causes this does that. These are just a lot of tests that have been done by a lot of very smart people, Princeton University, Stanford University, so on and so forth. And a lot of these links have been drawn to conclude that cancer is most definitely caused by increased use of insecticides, pesticides, genetically modified organisms. So we're very confident that those kinds of things are best to be avoided. There's certainly no health risk in using organic products.